Hi there. So this is part 3 of making calendula facial balm. So I'm making these videos. This is our 3rd part because I'm always giving them to friends and family, and everyone's always saying, hey, how do I make these? And people are just genuinely interested in making their own selves. I just think it's something that just intrigues people. So I've noticed, how could I put this in a workshop? And I thought it would be tricky because it is a lengthy process just in terms of picking things and letting it sit and wax and stuff. So I'm filming this, so if you have a desire to make your own ointment, this is a foundation. So the last 2 parts were involved in picking the flower petals. The second part was putting it in a jar, and the 3rd part today is going to be processing this product that's ready, and it's been sitting in 32 ounces of olive oil since June 5th. And I'm going to created somewhat of a double boiler situation, so I'm going to pour my oil in here with my waxes, and then I'm going to melt this wax, and then I'm going to process it into these jars here. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to start. So I'm just going to take the top off. And I'm really excited about this because I've been looking at this jar for a long time now and watching the color change. So it's got this beautiful color, and it's altered since it went in. It kind of started almost murky, and then it just clarified and clarified and clarified after sitting in the sunshine. And as I said in part 2, I'm just pour it in here. The sunshine in the window is critical because if you don't do that, it can create mold in the jar. And that's happened to me too. So I just pour all through this strainer because you want to get all the plant matter separated from this oil. And the color of that oil, hopefully you can see it, is gorgeous. It's this beautiful honey yellow color. And I'm just going to strain that out, put that on top, and get a strainer on my ladle here and just press it out so I don't lose too much oil. And this is really, really done its alchemy. I really look at this as alchemy. We're turning this into a medicine for our skin. And just press that through. Once I feel I've gotten enough of that oil out, I'm just going to compost this. I'll put this in the compost and it'll go into our soil eventually and just refeed us. So that's done. Take that over. And my ladle I'm going to clean off in a minute because I'm going to use that to ladle in here. So I've got this. Now, double boiler situation, this isn't an official double boiler, but we've just kind of created this because ultimately you don't want to have the saucepan directly on heat because you want to keep it on a lower temperature. So I have this on a simmer. The water's warm. I've got these 2 bowls here. Ratio here is basically it's a 1:4, and 4 parts being oil, 1 part being wax. So generally people with salves usually just use beeswax, but because this is a facial salve, I'm using also cacao butter, which has beautiful moisturizing attributes. I started making this about 2 years ago and just noticed, like for example, I get dermatitis, skin rashes around my nose, and as soon as I would put this on, it would instantly go away within like an hour. So it's just hugely beneficial. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and it's just amazing for your skin. So here we are, cacao butter and beeswax. And you can see it, I've just sort of grated it down as best I can. The smaller the grate, the quicker it'll melt. So I've started with like a block, for example, that looks like that. And then there's a cacao block here. And I've just grated it with a knife, or you can use a grater. And this wax I've actually got from Kwai, from a beekeeper. And this is from cacao butter from our chocolate company, because we used to make raw chocolate. But essentially you can go to any herbal store and they will sell beeswax. You can get it online. It's super easy to find. So here we are. I'm going to just add the wax here. So I was talking about the ratios, 4:1. So 32 ounces of oil. You want to quarter that out. You need 8 ounces of wax. So I actually half that. So I have 4 ounces of butter, cacao butter, and 4 ounces of beeswax. Now I'm going to add this into here. There we go. Really nice. That color is just golden and amazing. There we go. And just put it aside. And then I've got just a wood chopstick here, and I'm just going to start continuously turning this. Again, you don't want to have that high heat though, because you want to keep it you know, pretty low, so we're not burning anything. Just the idea is we're just melting everything and fusing it all together, just like so. And just melt that down. And again, like the bigger the piece, the longer it takes to melt down. There we go. I was thinking about calendula before we started the video, and I was reflecting on something. I think it was a year ago. I was in Kauai, and there was a girlfriend I had met at a preschool where my kids go to school, and she was, I think she was only maybe 28, and she had skin cancer on her forehead. And I saw her, and they had just finished a whole radiation treatment, and her entire forehead was really badly burned. And I had this pull to give her one of my ointments, my calendula ointments, and I did. And I saw her a couple days later, and it had gone down like 50%, and she just was really happy, and it was nice to see. I was like, you know, just getting that affirmation about these, you know, ointments that we make. And again, I've given these to my friends. I had a girlfriend that had hit her nose here and really badly, and she had used it again the next day, 50% healing. And so I just noticed, like, when we make our own stuff, there's something about it. It just like growing your own food versus going to the grocery store, like even going to the farmer's markets. Like when you take it to that level and you're making it yourself, there's something magical that happens, I think. You know, something really healing when you really take it down to that level and, you know, put your own energy into something. So, and calendula is one of those plants that people say, well, where do I find it? And you can kind of see it everywhere. Like I live in Sydney, BC, for example, and you just go along the roads and it's just flourishing along pathways and stuff. And of course, me, I'm always picking it and adding it to my ointments and stuff, because often when you get a jar, you don't often have enough petals to fill up that jar right away. So what I'll do is I keep adding petals as I find it, and then once I feel I've got enough of that 32-ounce jar, then I date it and it sits for 6 weeks. So just sort of like, I call it like that guerrilla gardening, like finding it as you can. And I'm planting it in my garden, but it is a tricky plant to sometimes cultivate. You know, when you seed it, sometimes it doesn't come up so quick. So it's one of those, I find, like wild medicinal plants do take time, like nettles and stuff, they don't like to be propagated. So they do grow wild, you do have to kind of find your way with them, but good news is when you start picking, like for example calendula, when you start picking those petals from that plant will respond to it and start doubling and giving you more and more. Day by day you'll get more and more petals. It actually, you know, if anybody's read The Secret Life of Plants, they've proven back in the 20s that plants have consciousness, they have awareness. So they, you know, that's what they're here for. They're here to help us heal. So yeah. So I'm just turning this around. I'm going to actually turn it up just a little bit, get that going, and we're almost melted. And I'm actually going to add an essential oil, this Lang Lang I just got. And Lang Lang is beautiful, beautiful essential oil. They use it in Shell No. 5 perfume. It's one of the bases of that actually, and it's quite a popular perfume. And you can add lavender if you like. Any essential oil you like. Blends, if you're an aromatherapist, you can make blends of beautiful oils. And I'll put that on just a little bit. Maybe I'll drop it in now. And you know how much? 20 drops, 30 drops, depending on how much you want to. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we are. There's 30 drops. Little game of patience here, for sure. So nice. And it makes quite a bit. It really does. This is going to yield us, hopefully I'll fill up all my jars. But the nice thing about it too is one of these jars will last you, if you're just using it on your face, like 4 to 6 months. So it really goes far. Like I'll usually make, the last couple of years I've been doing this, I've just done this 132-ounce jar, and I'll basically give most of my girlfriends their facial oil for the year. And I've decided this year to just continue going. Every time I'm seeing calendula, I just keep adding. And I've got other jars happening here while we're doing that. I've got another flower blend, which is June 15th, so that's going to be up soon. And this has calendula, rose petals, lavender petals, and nasturtiums. And this is the first blend I've ever done with this, so I'll just see how this turns out. So I think the point is have fun. Like I think like when we first start projects like this, or we see other people doing it, we think, oh my gosh, you know, it seems so daunting. But It's really not. It's really simple. Bless you.
Thank you.
My brother there.
Sorry
Thank you,
about
Chris, for filming. I'm really grateful. We got a moment. I have 3 kids, so it's really special to have a quiet moment in the house. My daughter's sleeping, and my 2 boys are with my husband, and getting this opportunity to have this film. So anyways, yeah, it's so easy to do. I'm just gonna turn this up here. It's, a little bit of patience here. Patience isn't my attribute, I have to say. Sagittarius, Jupiter, quick-moving planet. If you're into astrology, just set that down. And another oil I'm doing is plantain. And this was actually my first one that I ever learned in terms of making ointments. And I did it because I was inspired after I had my first child. This helped me a lot with women stuff. So I found out the herbalist that did it, and it inspired me so much. I could not believe how quickly it healed what I was dealing with. So it was amazing, and I went on to make my own plantain ointment. And it was what I found out was it's amazing for bee stings and mosquito bites. So I found if you get a mosquito bite or a bee sting, you put plantain on it, and it actually extracts the poison out. And it's so effective. It's also, my kids call it Mama's plantain ointment and Mommy's magic ointment. They pretty much, any type of aloe, put the plantain on, and they put it on right away. And plantain is one of those plants. I think they call it the white man's footsteps or something, because it grows along paths and roads. And again, it's not one of those things people like put Roundup and they try to kill it. Meanwhile, it's this amazing medicinal plant that's just right there in most of our backyards to heal us. So it's all pretty cool. And you basically, with this one, same thing. You just pick the plant or the leaves, and you put it in olive oil, and you let it sit for about 6 weeks in a sunny window. And same idea. You add it with, this time I would just do beeswax with it, not the cacao butter. Here. Takes a while. Turn it up a little bit more, and then I'll turn it down. Did you guys have any questions? While we're waiting with Sarah to melt down. Chris, any questions? Don't put you on the spot. Another thing I just thought of too was you can add this. It's good for baby rashes. It's good for like a baby balm for babies' bums.
When did you start making this?
I started making this a couple years ago.
What was going on? Why?
I made the plantain, and then I've been into medicinal plants, and I just was like, what else can I make? And I had calendula growing in my garden, so I just decided to make a calendula ointment, and I couldn't believe how amazing it was for my skin. That's basically what it came down to. I use all natural skin products and oils mostly, and I just find like this is just this beautiful elixir for your skin, and every woman I've known that's used it has totally sworn by it. So it's very inspiring when you get that kind of feedback. They covet their little jars when they get them, so it's nice to see. And like I said, I remember posting on Facebook a couple years ago the jars for the season that I'd done, and everyone's like, how do we do this? And I just was realizing, like, I think women just have this innate thing that they want to make their own medicines. They want to know how to create their own medicine and find it in the earth and process things. I mean, it's something that is a lost art over the years. Like, we didn't necessarily get taught these things, and I think it's something that I think we're reintroducing ourselves to. So I think it's really important to have in your pharmacy is how to make your own ointments, because all this beautiful medicine just grows naturally in our own backyards, unless we use Roundup and stuff like that in our yards. But generally, I did a herbal course about 15 years ago, and I remember the teacher just saying, like, everything you need to heal you is like metaphorically in your own backyard. So everything we need there is there, and you go on walks in nature, and there's all these beautiful medicinal plants that are just indigenous to where we live, depending on the region we live in. So here we are. So it's definitely a slow process, meditative, and when we're stirring, it's like making a soup or a broth or something. We're just stirring our attention into it, and alchemizing and bringing all this energy together that's going to heal our skin. pretty hot. I've got this, the water hasn't boiled, but it's really starting to melt fast. And it just almost happens instantly when it starts to get to this stage. These pieces will just drop right out. And when I start putting it in the jars, it's gonna happen really quickly because the oil will solidify almost instantly, especially on this ladle, especially if it's cold. Like if I put it on like a jar to pour it in, for example, if that jar is cool, it's gonna just solidify right onto the jar. So you have to work pretty quick. It gets not intense, but you have to be precise when you start to pour. There we go. And I'm gonna clean this off right now because I'm almost done. And the other thing when you're working with oils is oils don't like water. So don't mix oil and water when you're doing this. It's like getting everything dry, and this is almost gonna hit a boil. It's gonna come on really fast. So make sure everything's dry, and because I'm in a double boiler, I've got water happening there, so I just wanna be mindful how I get it into there and make sure you're all organized before you start that process. I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. And I've done it different ways. I've poured the oil into like a pouring jar and poured it in here. I'm gonna attempt it for the first time with this ladle today, and we're just gonna see what happens. See what happens. These are all these little pieces are just melting away. Just going. And I feel like I'm gonna add a bit more of the lang lang because I just feel like lang lang is such a beautiful smell. And like I said, you could do lavender. Another really nice essential oil is rose oil, and that is another oil that just calms skin down. So just takes that inflammation down, calendula. If you have puffy skin or has a rash of any kind, the calendula will deal with that. There we go. All right, so we're like 99% there. Okay, I'm just gonna turn this off now, and I'm gonna start just about ready to pour.
Do you know if this works on eczema?
Oh yeah. I don't know whether I have eczema or dermatitis. I get like dry patches, and I when I was little I would get dry patches like eczema on my tummy and stuff when I used to get stressed. And I find, or if I eat foods that I'm allergic to, I get that. And this it just helps right away. And I remember my parents gave me like a steroid.
Cortisone?
Yeah, exactly. And this worked. So here we are. Okay, so I'm gonna take this off now. And again, super, super mindful with that water. Now, I'm gonna bring my jar over. This is how I'm gonna do it. And like I said, this is the first time I've done it with this ladle, so I'm just gonna see how this goes here. So just, here we are. So one. I just spilled some on my finger because I'm trying to rush a little bit. And that's two. Thank you. There we go. And I think what I'm going to do too is I'm going to bring this over here because the pan of which it's sitting in is quite hot. I don't want to get any more heat on this oil because it's very melted. There we go. Okay. This is really exciting. This is really the fun part. I mean, it's all really fun, but this is particularly fun because it's like anybody that does any canning, you get all these like jars of your beautiful little ointments. And I had a friend that I taught to do this years ago. And she just told me the other day that she's just done her first batch of calendula ointment. And I was just acknowledging how hard it is not to give it all away and just keeping some for yourself. But this year, I have made so much. I have so many jars behind me that there's going to be plenty. Plenty. And people said, oh, you should sell this stuff, you know, you should sell it. And it's really not what I want to do. It's what I'm supposed to be doing. I just really am interested in just sharing and teaching people how to do it themselves, right? And how much does it cost? We'd have to really sit and break it all down because there's lots of components. The jars are like about $1, and olive oil is about $15 for a full jar, and obviously the flowers are free. You know, there's probably about $4 worth of wax.
Can you make it in smaller batches, like use smaller mason jars? And...
Totally. Like that's a 32-ounce mason jar. So the question was, can you make smaller batches? That is a 32-ounce mason jar. I've helped friends make them, and they've made them in 8-ounce mason jars, half that size, which is perfect. You know, and I've got behind me. I think I have an 8-ounce plantain jar, because the day I found this plantain, I only had enough to fill that particular jar. So I just went with what I had. I'm actually going to fill all these jars. This is really exciting. Really exciting. And I'm just so excited how this year's batch is going to be. Every year's batch is so different. I think my plantain ointment, the first year I made it, that's what got me really hooked, because I couldn't believe, I'm one of those people that, and same with my son, we get brutal mosquito bites. Like, it's awful. Like, I get a mosquito bite, it can last like 2 weeks, and you know, it's not fun, especially if you're in the tropics. And I found that my plantain, if I put the plantain on right after a bite, it makes it go away within like 5 minutes, as long as you don't scratch it. But if you put it on right away, it makes the bite go away. Spider bites, it takes a little bit longer for some reason, because I think spiders, their bites can get a little bit more nasty, but definitely it takes that itch away, which is amazing. Wasp bites, wasps are another real nasty little thing, but it does help, not as effectively and as quickly as the mosquito bite, but definitely it works. It helps take that sting out. Like I said, it helps to just basically extract poison out. And First Nations, they would actually, I don't think they would do this whole process, they would actually just grab plantain in the forest, chew it up, and stick it on the whip. Okay, so I actually need more jars, which is really exciting. So I'm just gonna zip over here, right here. Here I am. And I've got all these little jars here. I'm a jar person. There was a sale on mason jars, so I loaded my entire trunk up, because I am into fermenting too, and just love jars. You can't have enough jars. So here we are. Here's an actual larger jar that I got. And okay. This is so exciting. This is what I do on my Saturdays. I just finished processing 20 pounds of basil in jars. Just hoping I did it right. All raw and processed in the Cuisinart with like salt and oils and stuff, and it hasn't been pasteurized, so I hope that it lasts. I'm trying to store as much food as I can for the winter.
Speaking of storage, how many pounds of blueberries do you have stored in that freezer over there?
I have 50 pounds of blueberries.
Oh my.
Yeah, I live in the Sandwich Peninsula, and it is just prolific with beautiful food. It's really exciting. And I'm just down to my last jar. Can you believe how many this is? This is amazing. Okay. Amazing. And you guys told me that you have a 3-minute window on YouTube for people to pay attention, and I thought about that, but I just can't get it done in 3 minutes. And I thought, you know, if you know, sometimes with stuff like this, we'll take a bit more time to learn how to do it. Here we are. And I'm just down to my last one here. So, there we go. Perfect. Just to pop that one up. And they don't take long to dry, or to solidify, excuse me. To solidify. It's summer, so it's pretty warm in this space, so they're going to take a little longer than it would on a cooler day. And my stove's on and stuff. Just pour that in. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. Perfect. So here we are. 32 ounces of calendula oil is going to make all of these jars. This is more than enough for one person's facial needs over the entire year. You could probably supply, you know, quite a few friends with this, or, you know, stockpile it for your kids, or whatever you want to do. So there you go, part 3 of making calendula. Thank you for being here, and I'm just honored to share the information, and good luck.